Reference. So in my previous example, right? So we have just created three app services. One is for QA, one is for UAT, one is for production service, production app services, and then we have the three branches: QA branch, UAT branch, and build branch. So whenever the developer commits the code on UAT, the application will deploy only on UAT app service. So whenever the developer commits the code on QA branch, so the application will deploy only on the Q app service. I mean, either the developer commits the code or using the pull request. So in my previous example, right, we have just discussed how to create a build pipeline and release pipeline using the classic editor. But in this example, okay, just we are going to talk about how to deploy, I mean, create a build pipeline, release pipeline using YAML scripts. Okay, so uh, I've already to save the time, I've already created my Azure App Services. One is for QA, one is for UAT, and one is for the production. Right. Similarly, I've just created my DevOps project. I've just pushed my code from my local repository to the Azure repository. In case if you want to do the steps right, so you can watch my previous video where I've just covered all the steps. Right. So the first step, right? So we have to create the branches, right? So in order to go to that, click on the master branch, new branch. I will just enter UAT, click create. So based on master branch, click create. So UAT. So similarly, we're just going to create for QA. Go for that, enter QA based on master branch, click create. Okay. So ensure that you have just created the connection also. If you go to the project settings, right? So you see something called service connection. So service connection establish the connection between from your Azure App Service to your Azure DevOps project. So basically, the service connection specifies what is the subscription name and what is the resource group name and your Azure DevOps projects. Right. If I just click right, so I already created the service connection. So now I will just go to here, pipeline. Click on this pipeline, create pipeline, right? So in my previous example, I might have selected the classic editor. So now we are just going to see the YAML script, right? Click on my code is resides in the Azure repository. So I'll select Azure repository Git. Click on that. Okay, this is my repository. Click on that. Okay, so I will create my YAML pipeline from the scratch. So I'll select with starter pipeline, click on that. Okay, so I will just delete everything. Okay, here I have my code, copy and put it here. Right. So let us understand this YAML script a bit. Okay, so trigger. I have a QA, UAT, and we have to mention the master branch also here, master branch. Right. In the stages, I have multiple stages. One is build stage, and second one is the QA stage, and second one is the QA stage, and third one is the UAT stage, and fourth one is the production stage. So in the build stage, right, I'm just going to build my application. If you see, right, in the classic editor, we might have seen that, uh, right, restore my project. So this is my task, restore task, build task, and then publish task. Okay. Similarly, YAML pipeline also, I've used the same thing. So this is my build pipeline, right? So this is my stage. I have using the four stages. So first stage is for the build stage, second stage is for QA, and third stage is for UAT, and fourth is the production, right? So here, so in the Q stage, right? So here, I've just mentioned the deploying to my QA environment. This is the main thing. The condition. What is the condition? Equivalent variable build dot source branch reference heads hyphen slash QA. If my source branch is equal to QA, then my application will deploy only on QA environment, right? So depends on build stage. Okay, so this is the two important lines. So depends on. So this stage is depends on build stage. So build stage is nothing but this is the one. This is my build stage. Similarly, in UAT also same thing. In UAT also, if I go to expand the UAT stage, right? UAT also the same thing. So this stage it depends on the build stage, and then branching. I mean branching state. Branching name is UAT. Similarly, I have just mentioned for the production also. Now I'm just going to save this pipeline and trigger it. Save this pipeline. I'm just going to create against the master branch. If you don't, because if you have any branching policy, the developer should not commit the code on the master branch, right? Then you can create a new branch. So this branch would be a temporary basis. When I select the new branch, right? So if you see, right? So it's so Azure pipeline is the branch name which is going to create, right? Once you create a merge request, sorry, once you create a pull request, right? So you can delete this temporary branch. But in case I don't have any branching policy, so I'll just deploy, I'll commit the code directly on the master branch. Click save. Right. Okay. So I will just go to the repository. Right. If I see that QA branch, I don't have the YAML file. If I go to the UAT, I don't have the YAML file. But if I go to the production, master branch, I see something called Azure-pipeline.yaml file. This is this thing, right? So I will just go again, maybe pull request, right? Mm, I will create a pull request to push the changes from the master branch to my lower environment. Ideally speaking, you have to create a pull request from the lower environment to higher environment, not from the low. But in this case, I have just commit the code on the this thing, right? Select the QA branch. Okay. So this is the one set up with Azure pipeline, right? Create. Okay. Complete. So these are the merge type. I will just go with the merge fast forward. Hmm, no fast forward, a complete merge. Similarly, I'm just going to create a one more pull request from master branch to UAT. Right. So new pull request, select master branch, here UAT branch. Right. So create and complete. If I just go now, if I go to the repository, so if I select the QA branch, you could see that Azure-pipeline.yaml. If I go to the UAT, I could see Azure-pipeline.yaml. If I go to the master branch, Azure-pipeline.yaml. So now, so ensure that in case if you are if the YAML pipeline does not exist in the QA environment or your environment, right, your code will not work. If the developer commits the code on the specific environment. So what I'm just going to do right now, I'm just going to pipeline, click the pipeline, right. So in case if you don't see the pipeline, click on all, right, you see that pipeline, right. But the reason is it will show only the executed pipeline sometimes. Right. If you see, right, my pipeline is triggered actually. It is running on that. My pipeline is running because I've triggered the code. Right. So I will just go to the pipeline. Okay. I will just cancel delete the previous one because, right. So first I committed the code for the QA, right? If I just go here, right. So it is asking the permission part. I will give the permit. So now the build stage is already completed and it is waiting for the QA. So you see, right, the condition you have skipped because the condition did not match for this UAT and production. Right. Let me refresh this page. Right. So it is completed, seems to be. Okay. It is started deploying. I mean, my application is deploying on the QA environment. So build stage is already completed and deploying the QA stage. So basically, you have to create. I mean, you have to create git pull command, right? So in the command prompt, right? I mean, in the command prompt from IDE, you have to use the git pull command to fetch your updated code from the repository, remote repository. Since I have a demo, right, I've just made the changes, directly changes on the Azure repository. Okay. So in the meantime, I will just open the application. Okay. This is my prod application. I will open here. This is my QA. We will go to the production one because my application is deploying on the QA environment. That's why it's open. Right. See, my application is deployed on the QA environment. Right. So, so, so in case if I just okay, let me refresh that. Okay, see here, the build stage is completed. So the application is built, and then it produced the artifact. So that artifact, you see that right, one artifact. So that artifact is the output of the build pipeline, and that is the input of your release pipeline. So this is my stage. So it did not deploy the other environment. You see the status is kept. So one job is completed. Right. So if I just go back to my pipeline, you can modify that as per your wish. You can add the something like um, staging slot also. If you want to staging slot, if the application wants to deploy in the staging slot, and we can swap the slot also. You can add this task also here. I mean, in case if you want to modify anything, right, you can click the settings, right? You can click the settings, see this Azure App Service connection, connection, something, right? So you can modify that. So if I select the app service name, I'll be able to see all the my app services in that. So in case you can, if you want to add the task or you can modify the existing task, right? You can select here. You can select and you can modify here. Similarly, if you want to add any task, right, you have to place the cursor in proper place and then you can add the task. So this is the assistant will help you on that. Okay. So I will just give my the repository link. Okay, repository link and then YAML description. I mean YAML script in my description. Thank you so much.